Hi guys, it's been 33,000 miles on the Exocet and I wanted to go over some aero enhancements I've done recently, so let's get started. The first one is the addition of a rear wing. I was pretty resistant for the first 4.5 years of ownership of this to put a rear wing on. The car already understeers at speed, so I figured it wasn't necessary. However, now that I've put on the rear wing, I can really play with the shock stiffness in the rear. So what I'm able to do is increase the shock stiffness in the rear to where the car is loosened up, it's not understeering at low speed, and I can really make the car a little more neutral. But then when I'm trying to come out of a turn or I'm in a high speed turn, I've got more aero grip in the rear. This makes the car much more stable. And this is a 9 Lives Racing wing. It's 71 inches long, as they sell to most of the Exocet guys. And it's only at like 1 or 2 degrees angle of attack. So it's really effective even at low angles of attack. So looking at the roll bar, a lot of people are complaining that the wing itself is mounted too low. And it's not just from the roll bar, it's from a lot of the other turbulence generating features, including the seats and the windshield and so forth, that's mitigating how effective the rear wing is. They're saying you should mount it 18 inches higher, and some of the data proves that. So it's beyond the scope of what I wanted to do. But in order to improve the airflow to it, I 3D printed these fairings. So I designed these. This is a 1.75 inch tube. And again, if you guys are interested, just let me know in the comments. I'll put a link to a Thingiverse STL file you can print for yourselves. And again, it's just held on with these 5mm bolts and some captured nuts on the underside. These are 30mm long. Looks like I should have gone with 25mm, and I probably will do that. Looking back at the wing, as the rear tire was flinging rocks up, it was actually beating the underside of the aluminum wing up, and it was getting some pretty big pits inside it, and that was after only about 1,000 or 1,500 miles. So what I did was sanded it smooth, polished it, and then took it to a company that does a clear bra. So the clear bra ends right here. It might be difficult to see, and it goes all the way underneath, and now it's been another, say, 1,500 to 2,000 miles, and it's fairly smooth now. So it really has mitigated the amount of damage that's able to happen to the wing from rocks being kicked up by the rear tires. The next modification I made to it was keeping the wing from parallelogramming has been kind of an issue. Some guys have been using wires, other people using actual hard structural braces. My solution was to use a clamp on this 1.75 inch tube and then bolt it to the clamp. This is 1.5 inches on one side, 1.5 inches on another, and 1/8 of an inch thick aluminum that then bolts to the Domex wing mount. And in my opinion, it's quite strong. I don't see the need to make this thing any stronger in the future. This is quite a bit of force being put on this. So anyway, I like that solution. The only difficulty I had was this Domex, as Exomotive advertises, is really tough steel. So threading the holes in the Domex was actually kind of a pain. I think I ruined a tap doing it. Maybe if you guys are a little lazier, just put a nut on the other side of this. So moving to the front, I spent several months trying to figure out how I wanted to mount the front wings. There's been a number of solutions. Most people don't run a front wing, and definitely on the street I'm not going to. The front wing is just a liability. People are kicking their shins on it, or maybe even you pull into a gas station and bang them on the posts there. So this is only going to be for the track. And I've got it mounted now. In a minute, I'm just going to take it off. So the way it mounts is, again, more clamps. These are aluminum clamps, 1.75 inch tubing, and I've got 10mm bolts going through that's threaded into this piece of aluminum. So this aluminum's 6061. It's 1.5 inches on a side and quite strong. So I'm weigh 170 pounds. I can bounce on this thing as hard as I want, and obviously there's one on the other side as well, so plenty strong for the mounting the front wing. And then you actually have to notch it a little bit. This goes in about 1/2 inch around the sway bar mount on the actual chassis. And then I didn't do it on this side because you've got loads pulling up, but you've got loads pulling down on this side. So I've got a 10mm bolt going into the actual angle aluminum here, and an 8mm bolt going into the actual bracket itself, into the clamp. So this is made out of aluminum as well. Just one more bit of peace of mind to know that this thing's not going to come undone at the track. So as far as the way the wing mounts, this is 3/4 inch hollow stainless steel tube. So As luck would have it, this is actually the same diameter as an NA front sway bar. So the way you're able to mount this is use the sway bar bushings from an NA sway bar in the front. You can order them on Rock Auto or whatever, including the clamps, and you actually have a nice isolator to keep this isolated between this solid bracket and the actual bar here. This bar, not quite as stiff as I would like it. It's about a 2mm tubing thickness, and as you look down the side of it, you can tell as I put forces, probably 30 pounds of force that's causing this to deflect at the end, and which is to say this thing probably bounces around this much. I can't see it when I'm driving the car, but I can see in the shadow it's bouncing around about that much. And I probably will go with a solid steel bar, or if I can afford to do so, justify it, it'll be a titanium bar in the future. But for now, it's kind of embarrassing seeing how much the thing bounces up and down, but I think it would last on the track, and in the future I plan on going with a stiffer bar. The way it's mounted at the end here, you've got a nut that I welded on the end, and then the end plates actually have 3D printed bushings. So pull that out. Not a whole lot of purchase there on the end plates. So if I were to do this again, this is 3/32 of an inch thick. I would probably go with a full 1/8 of an inch. And I've driven it with this thing about 500 miles now on the street. I'm taking it off today. But in the future, I may end up biting the bullet and remaking those end plates an 1/8 of an inch thick. And those were just designed after Nine Lives Racing end plates themselves. I extended this one a little bit, you can see, and these holes are when I mount it, I screw it into the plate there and they can adjust the angle of attack. Speaking of angle of attack, I generally run these things at just a little bit below their stalling AOA. As far as I know, they stall somewhere around 10 degrees. So as measured to the top of the gurney flap and to the top of the upper camber of the wing, it's about 9 degrees. So that makes up for any sort of dipping or bobbing, pitching that the car will do. And what you're trying to do is get as much airflow over the front tires as possible. So 2 reasons for that. First off, there's a lot of drag for these front tires. So you can tell the air is just hitting them just dead on, and there's a whole bunch of drag associated with that. Also, you've got extra drag by the fact that the tire is rotating, meaning the upper portion of the tire is actually twice your speed. So if you're going 80 or 100 miles an hour on the track, you're seeing 160 or 200 miles an hour at the upper portion of the tread going through the air. So it's important to get the airflow over the tire to diminish drag, but also you've got the Magnus effect, which is the same way they cause baseballs to curve when they're throwing them, they spin them. So you've actually got a little bit of lift on these front tires, which in my opinion is noticeable. At speed, even if the car is fairly loose at a low speed, at speed the Exocets tend to understeer. So the primary impetus behind having a front wing is to diminish that high speed understeer. Again, only going to be in the track because this precludes fitting the stock bonnet. So it's kind of a bummer. Plus, it's just something to hit. It's a liability pulling into your garage and so forth. So, by the way, I also printed another set of 4 of these fairings in PETG. So that's it for the aero updates. Just one more reminder to you guys. I know the information's out there already, but those of you using the JNC 003 wheels, you're basically stuck to one of 2 brake packages, which is the stock NA brakes or the NB1 brakes, which are pretty small. I had upgraded to the NB2 Sport brakes, and unfortunately that meant that even with the 0 offset JNC 003 wheels, I had to space them out. So I've got 15 millimeters of spacer in the front and 5 millimeters of spacer in the rear, and I still like these JNC 003 wheels, especially considering how light they are and affordable they are, but unfortunately not much brake caliper clearance. So even the Fly Miato's little big brake kit, I printed out their template, it still doesn't fit. You still end up having to use spacers. So if you guys know of a good, affordable 15x9 0 offset or even negative offset wheel that's available, I'd be interested. I've done some research and it's kind of uncommon given how much poke that would provide on most cars. So anyway, that's the only updates I have for now. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.